what a petty ass toxic test that Rafe puts her through when he says, hey, don't come see me off the train station. And then Danny's like, why did you ask her not to come? And he's like, well, it's a test. If she comes, then she loves me. It's like, dude, what the fuck? What are you talking about?
What?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
God, no. I fucking passed out hard.
That is some toxic shit, man.
Jesus Christ.
And then he's like, Danny, if I die, I want you to tell her. And he's like tell her with my...
Tell her through personally?
Tell her through
tell
my
her
body? How personally you want it? He said, no, just like say it to her.
Just through my mouth or...
No, like do it. Can I do mouth stuff? Can I do hand stuff?
On December 7, 1941, Japan staged a surprise attack on the U.S. Pacific Fleet, decimating them. And yet the worst fallout of that attack, for me personally, has been this movie. Having to watch this incredibly... just a crime rate of a length of a film. Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. Jesus
Listen,
Christ.
you say that, but I think that people, maybe they've done the math. This is the first movie we've done that's been nominated for an Academy Award.
Stop it. Really? No.
Yes.
My faith in humanity already so shaky, and for it to come out this way, man.
You know what it got nominated for? Best original screenplay. No, I'm just kidding. It was like a bunch of technical awards. Well deserved.
That's fair.
That
okay.
Yeah.
I guess technically this was a good movie.
To be fair, like I believe Transformers is an Academy Award winning film for the same reasons.
100%.
I think it won like sound editing or sound design.
Yeah.
One of those two things which nobody knows what they really are except the people who do them, but you did a good job.
It's the Michaelist Bay Award.
Normally we aim squarely for like the MTV Teen Choice Award films, but this one we're going a little highbrow. Yeah.
As long as the lead characters are soulless and boring, I think you're hitting the mark.
Yeah. They're about as interesting as a plain piece of paper and a printer. Yeah.
And and you know me, I'm a sucker for the war films. Like I unabashedly love them.
Well,
and then this comes along.
This movie, it's either like it's like a romance stuffed into a war film and a war film stuffed into a romance, and only one of those things works. And like you said, like the war film aspect of this film does kind of work. But the 3 hours...
By the time you get there.
The 3 hours of it is because of the fucking banal romance that happens. It's just so... It's
an 80-20 romance war film.
Well, it's like Michael Bay was like, I can do the action part well. I want to challenge myself and try to do the character part and just holy.
Yeah.
And sorry, we're talking about Pearl Harbor, the 2001 incredible film starring Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett, Kate Beckinsale, and Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd.
Cuba Gooding Jr., John Voight. John Voight just looking.
John Voight.
Ready to smash in this film. I can tell where that Angelina Jolie came from. This fake chin he's got in this bad boy. Alec Baldwin, too. Alec Baldwin phoning it in.
Oh, man. 100%. Just the hammiest of hams.
I want to touch on something first off the bat that really struck me about this film.
Hit me.
Well, couple things first.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend Chris, who you know, who we love.
What's up, Chris?
Great man. He has this really good attitude about like the idea of a guilty pleasure.
Yes.
And he's kind of like, well, if you like it, you shouldn't feel guilty for liking it.
Totally agree.
And this movie, possibly even more so than last week's The Butterfly Effect, I don't hate this movie. I kind of find it really entertaining.
Okay.
But man, does it suck. And I mean, like, it's so weird to say, like, I like it, but it's not good. Again.
You know what? I know exactly what you mean. I prefer it if a movie enrages me. I would rather hate a film than be bored by it. And unfortunately, Pearl Harbor to me was so
Wait, there's
fucking
boring parts of this movie?
you had to shake me awake to get back in the zone because I kept falling out of it.
So so the thing is, so I, as a brave man myself, I watched Pearl Harbor twice this week, and I just finished it today. And I will say, so as I might be more of a sucker for war films than you.
I agree. Damn.
And I watched half of it yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and then last night I got to the point just before the Pearl Harbor attack, and I started watching the battle sequence, and then I was doing something else, and I was like, I'm gonna not. I want to pay attention to this because the battle sequence is honestly really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's the only really technically gifted part of the film.
100%.
But I can understand, I mean, this movie is critically derided, and I can understand why, because it takes an hour and 45 minutes before anything good happens.
It's a Michael Bay film without any action for 80% of the time.
But then
shocking.
the action is just kind of like, fucking
The action
finally
blows it out of
just
the park.
get to
Totally.
it. Like, so that's one thing about the movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. It is a blockbuster action film just made for inhaling popcorn, right? It delivers all the battle scenes, all the realistic planes, all the CGI. Like the action involving the Pearl Harbor attack is the best part of the film, with just so little of it.
well, yeah, and you know what? And in watching it again today, when my patience was getting very thin, really. So, I'm remiss. I don't really want to talk about it now. I want to talk about it when we get to it, when we talk about the plot.
Okay.
So what I want to remind me when we get to the plot.
Got it.
What I want to say is certain parts of the action movie are spectacular, and certain parts of it start to get really annoying. And we'll get into that.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, which struck me in this viewing, I had seen this movie when I was younger, of course. It was very popular when I was, like a tween or whatever, because Josh Hartnett and Ben Affleck. Like, Josh Hartnett was a huge heartthrob, and I don't really mind. I like Josh Hartnett, kind of. He never really popped, unfortunately, but whatever. The other thing, though, which I never really thought about when I was younger, this is like a gay love story.
100%.
Like,
oh my God, I'm so happy you said that, because a lot of the rest of this podcast is going to be me talking about how much I want this movie to be as gay as possible.
like
and
what?
how heartbreaking it is that it's not.
What is Kate Beckinsale doing
Dude,
in between these two?
You know
men?
what? Say less, because the top 5 that we're doing today is, I don't want to say
All right.
anything right now.
So I read like a 20-year anniversary review of this by Scott Tobias in The Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting read anyway, because it's funny and insightful. But he said that he hinted at the homoerotic undertones of this film,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, he was like, just remember that before Danny is Rafe's like rival,
Mm-hmm.
he's Kate Beckinsale's rival for Rafe's love.
Yes.
Right? And
Yeah.
that's like, I don't know, just watching this, I was just kind of like,
Totally.
wouldn't it just be better? Because to be honest, like, Kate Beckinsale is a fucking wash in this movie.
What?
And it's not her fault. It's really not her fault. It's a terribly written character.
Yeah.
The thing I wrote down was like, her character in this movie is like if someone watched the film Airplane and thought it was a drama and based her character off of Julie Haggerty, and just like she's a real victim in this film.
Airplane the comedy?
Yeah, Airplane the fucking comedy.
Airplane
Yeah,
the airplane? Yeah, right.
yeah, and Ben
Oh my
Affleck.
God.
Ben Affleck is phoning this one in too. Yeah.
Dude, I literally have a note here that's like, Ben and Josh are a couple of basic bitches. There's no other way to say it.
But they
They're
are like
terribly bland protagonists.
the other thing too is like Kate Beckinsale. It's like, why do you have such bad taste in men?
Yeah,
Holy, like,
shorty, what are you doing?
So speaking of another major role in this movie, Cuba Gooding Jr. Cuba Gooding Jr. I think is good in this movie, and the reason he's good is because he's the only one who's really
An
keyed
actor.
into the melodrama of it all.
Yes.
He's very over the top, but it actually kind of suits the movie.
Totally.
And he is the only other man to really have an interaction with Kate Beckinsale's character. I'm like, Cuba, guy's a boxer.
I
He can
know.
cook. He's a war hero. Like, come on. This man is just like sitting. yeah, it's so interesting.
I'm surprised you're saying that he like overdid it, but I thought he was really restrained and like the right amount of patriotic, at least what you kind of expect the tone of this to be without being hammy.
Yeah, what I mean is like he fits in the film.
It.
He's
Totally fits
fitting
it.
into the film a lot better than some of the characters do. I mean, another thing I will say to this film's credit, it has like an incredible cast of just random actors who you're just like, oh, that guy, hey, that guy.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
Oh my god, that guy, Dan Aykroyd. And then
180
two of these
men.
people played Tommy in the Butterfly Effect.
My guy from Trainspotting. What's up, Spud?
Yeah, Spud.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Again, like the three major leading actors and not one of them compelling enough to keep my attention, and I just keep waiting for these side characters to give us more or like to live more through, like, for example, Ben Affleck's friend, the stuttering guy played by the Spud actor from Trainspotting, so much more compelling.
Mm-hmm. And Jamie King too, his love interest who passes away.
Was her name Betty? I think so.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of you want to know more about like how all these cute, really good emotive scenes, and you would expect it from Ben Affleck's character or Josh what's his face, and it's just never happens.
The real, among many issues with this film, like one of the big problems is that everything that happens away from the main characters is so much more interesting than a lot of, even in the parts of the movie that are interminable, the parts where like they're the war stuff where it's like they're trying to break the code, they're trying to figure out where they're going to attack. The Dan Aykroyd of it all is like just more interesting.
Definitely.
And it's kind of like, oh my God,
5
is this
seconds.
a fucking war movie or is it a melodrama with these shitty characters? Or it's like, and it's this weird cutting where it's like Dan Aykroyd's trying to break a code and Kate Beckinsale is sitting on a rock in a bikini with writing a terrible letter to fucking Rafe, and then Rafe is Tom Hardying in this plane in England and being like, oh my God, get that. It's
and then like no warning, black screen 3 months later.
Oh, that cut.
What?
That cut was just obscene.
You know what? I do wonder if it was an executive decision or like the studio was like, you know what? These leading actors, we have to have them be clean slate. They can't be weirdos. They're representing America. Like, was it one of those things? I wonder.
They're really like
no quirk.
One of the things that makes them so fucking bland, as you pointed out, is that they are really kind of like flawless.
Yeah. Yep.
And they don't have much in the way of their character outside of just being pilot dudes. And it's just kind of like Kate Beckinsale, it's like when you have a friend who's dating someone who you're just like, so you're really into that guy, huh? Okay. Really interesting choice.
But like all her supporting girlfriends are just this giggly squad of nurses who don't have much to do in the film anyway, except maybe die.
Also like they don't have a lot to do. Like we've mentioned the like representation of women in other films we've talked about. In this one, it's pretty bland characters.
Yeah.
They're just there to like, they're kind of objectified, and then they just like give it up. Like fucking, they're just like,
maybe it's wartime.
You're sweet. Maybe I'll just drop my drawers and just like get it done with.
You say that. And yet the most shocking, most unbelievable thing about Ben Affleck's character, who's just a classic soldier, right? But he tells Kate Beckinsale, listen here, hottest woman I've ever met. We're not going to have sex until I return from war. Fuck off. There's no way.
That is one of the most, I think one of the most obscene. That was the scene that I thought about where I was just like, oh, they try to make him pure. And it's like, dude, it makes it seem like he's not human. Like, that's the thing. And then the other crazy thing, first chance Danny gets, he's right up in Kate Beckinsale, man. It's so like, and it's silly. And the only reason that's in the film, let's go back to elementary school. The only reason that's in the film is so that we're sure it's not his baby in the end.
Totally. And it's like a plot
which
device
is
for conflict.
Just stupid. Because it's this kind of like the guy's going on like what is Ben Affleck thinking in that scene? It's so obscene.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Can we like
plot here?
We got to get into the plot.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I know you said this plot can be summarized in 4 sentences. So.
Well, it's like I said before we started recording, is like the weird thing about this movie is like only 5 things really happen. It's like really not a complex film. But I have lots to say for those things. Let's be clear. So like there's a prologue. Danny and Rafe, they grow up in Tennessee, and Danny has an abusive father who fought in World War I. So his father, played by the guy who's in Heat and The Dark Knight and stuff, incredible actor, William Fichtner. Yeah, great actor. That little performance is over the top, but actually again kind of fits into the film. Yeah. And he says this thing, right, where he says like, I pray to God nobody sees the things that I see, which I thought I always find, I'm like, a line like that kind of has to be in every war film.
Yeah.
However, this movie doesn't do much to actually deal with that thematic material. No. It does a little, but it doesn't really. At the end of the day, war just seems kind of cool.
Yeah, wonderful point, because they never bring it back.
And remind me to get to this at the end, because Kate Beckinsale gives some voiceover that is obscene. So Rafe hits him with the board. He saves Danny from his abusive father. I mean, this one time.
Yeah.
And then the kid is just like, "You're my best friend." And it's like, you couldn't even say thank you.
No.
And it's like, dude, dipshit, I'm the only kid around. Of course I'm your best friend. Like, what the fuck? So he's
like, peace, I got to go back home with my,
Yeah. They go to pilot school, and they are fucking hotheads and idiots and whatever. And then they put themselves in grave danger. And then as their reward, one of them gets to go almost kill himself in England. Ben Affleck is going to go to England. They have like one last night. This sequence is so long. And then we meet Kate on the train, and she tells the story of how they all met. So we're going into a flashback now. The storytelling throughout this kind of the backstory is just so frustratingly long and convoluted.
Yeah.
They met at the hospital, and it's really...
We don't even have to
it's just
dive into the plot at this point.
It's tasteless. It's like a limp chicken breast of a fucking sequence, with no salt. So they're having this one last romantic fling. Rafe hasn't told her that he's going off to England, though. And they're shipping out to Pearl Harbor. Danny's shipping out to Pearl Harbor. And then, so they have this one last romantic night. Rafe is like, I'm going off to England. I definitely don't want to have sex. I'd rather just explode in my pants on the train for some reason. And the pace is just so glacial. And then I gotta say too, what a petty ass toxic test that Rafe puts her through when he says, "Hey, don't come see me off the train station." And then Danny's like, "Why did you ask her not to come?" And he's like, "Well, it's a test. If she comes, then she loves me." It's like, dude, what the fuck? What are you talking about?
What?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
God, no. I fucking passed out hard.
That is some toxic shit, man.
Jesus Christ.
And then he's like, "Danny, if I die, I want you to tell her." And he's like tell her with my...
Tell her through personally?
Tell her through my body? How personal you want it? He says, no, just like say it to her.
Just through my mouth or...
No, like can I do mouth stuff? Can I do hand stuff?
Let the man live. Somebody let me... You know what, Kate? I got you. Okay, this ineptitude in the cinema.
And so Rafe goes off to England.
Yeah.
Danny goes to Pearl Harbor. Kate goes to Pearl Harbor. And... that again, like this, the thing I think that wrecked this movie for audience at the time. Now myself, I was 11 years old, so I never saw it in theaters. But I'm sure one of the things, much like as we talked about with Butterfly Effect, if you were seeing this for the first time in theaters, it is just a little bit like, holy fucking shit, when are we going to actually get to something to start? And this is when it starts to really be hard to watch, because just the letter writing scenes on the beach, and they're just so awful, and just and then like the stuff that's happening with Josh Hartnett just doesn't really get anything to do.
No, he's just like a sidekick character, but also happens to be the biggest face on the poster for some reason.
Oh, he was so big at the time.
This movie is 3 parts, and Pearl Harbor only happens in the 3rd part. So the first 80%
in the first 45 minutes, you're not even in Hawaii yet, for the love of God. Yeah.
Ugh. The most compelling part of this film is the first 3 minutes when they're children and they hop into an airplane and take off, and then they get one of their dad beats them. After that, it's all downhill from there. Dude.
No, that's unfair. The battle sequence is like the only real. Yeah.
And okay, it is compelling, right? And there's harrowing scenes, but even that is so long. I get it. Why does it have to be a 45-minute? Like, it's after a point, it's just noise. It's just explosions.
I want to dissect a little bit why it feels so painful, especially when you've watched it, a couple times a week.
You're mad.
So, just like the boring kind of like life as usual stuff is just shitty, and then Rafe goes down over France, and he's presumed dead, and then Danny is like, well, I got to tell her the news and also get busy. So
with mouth stuff.
There's like there's a weird cut where it's just kind of like he tells her and then they like toast his memory, and then Kate's sitting on a beach, and then it's like 3 months later, and then they're like they see each other right again, and it's kind of like, oh boy, like we didn't need that. Yeah,
because someone at the studio must have been like,
yeah,
this fucking S word. She's just gonna give it up to this. Like, no, guys, 3 months have passed. You remember? Also, interestingly, that interaction was actually quite sweet. I thought it was very well done, given that it was a Michael Bay film.
Which one?
When Danny approaches Kate Beckinsale as a friend, and then a little bit more as a friend, tries to get her confidence, isn't confused about how he's feeling because she is his best friend's girl.
It's the 10 minutes of the film where Josh Hartnett gets to take kind of center stage.
Yeah.
And as I said, I like Josh Hartnett, and I think he's a good actor in a specific way, and he just never has really been in a movie that people were like, that movie ruled. And I don't know, it's too bad.
Was he in Lucky Number 11?
Yeah, that's the movie that I like of his that nobody else does, but I do. Yeah.
I think that's because he's mostly him. There's no Ben Affleck.
He is front and center in that film too. Yeah. Essentially, Danny and Evelyn get busy, and they smash in a parachute hangar, and then
beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. They ride together in an airplane, which I am still almost certain that's not possible.
They ride in an airplane like I ride on a bicycle.
She's like sitting on his lap, and I'm just like, I don't think that. I'm like, if anything, she got pregnant up there. Like they're so close.
For sure. Yeah. That's gotta be
I don't think that you can really do that. It's also dangerous. They're irresponsible, and they should have been grounded. Anyway, and then. Like fucking 2 seconds later, Rafe is back. He went down over France. The French were like, "Ah, sacre bleu, Americain," and they save him. They feed him some wine and some porridge, and then send him back home.
The scene where he comes back looking like a fucking Sith Lord, just weird lighting, the strange shadow on his face.
Also, that scene annoys me so much because it's like, I hate the way it's edited.
Yeah.
So the thing that happens is like, if I remember correctly, and maybe I'm getting this wrong, but okay. Kate Beckinsale is looking at some letters that she just got delayed from France, right?
Yeah.
And then shadow on the window. Is who is it? Who is it? And then cut to a whole explanation from the letter of Ben Affleck saying he's back. Well, we don't need that.
No.
We just saw that he's back. And then the next scene, he explains that he's back. And it's like, we don't need the flashback to the French thing. We just need him to say it all. It's edited in a way that it's kind of like, I wish it needs to be like reorganized in some, I don't know.
Reorganized to be erased and never be made
It could
again.
be totally cut, or it could be just like kind of arranged a little better. I don't know. I'm not an editor, but...
And I wonder if like all that lighting and all the ways to reintroduce Ben Affleck back from the dead is to make him intentionally unlikable, because god damn did I hate that he came back and also just was an uber jerk, understandably, because obviously the woman he loved and didn't get to JSD over was now somebody else's.
Come on, to be fair, he definitely jaded his D over her. She just wasn't around.
But not like physically. Yeah, fair.
He jaded his D on foreign soil.
Jerked his dreams.
He jaded his D on both sides of the channel during this war, man.
As any free man should.
Not many Americans can say that, okay?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Absolutely disgusting. And Josh Hartnett is just this poor kid who's like, bro, we thought you were dead, and then we had to JRDs, respectively.
I don't know why he just went like, dude, if you weren't going to do it, I was going to.
I mean, fucking, yeah. Yeah. God, nobody was that heartbroken about it.
Yeah. So he comes back, and then him and Josh Hartnett kind of fight about it. They get in a physical altercation. There's some arguments and stuff like that. This is all leading up to Pearl Harbor. I want to just go back.
And yet Pearl Harbor's not happened.
Pearl Harbor still hasn't happened. Dan Aykroyd.
Benedict Cumberbatch. Touring test. Like, there's all this shit happening on the fucking side. Anything but goddamn Ben Affleck.
I want to shout out Dan Aykroyd, who went to my university and didn't graduate, apparently. But,
Hey.
you know, he's the most famous person to ever go to the university I went to. One of the great Canadians.
John and your
He's
dad.
Jade as D on both sides of the channel. I think. I take that back. That's all speculation. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can't be
Dan,
sure.
you're really good in this movie.
Love him. Love him.
He's great.
Yeah.
The thing is like every time I see Dan Aykroyd in this film, he's in like 3 or 4 scenes. It's kind of like, oh, I want the Dan Aykroyd version of this film where he's the code breaker, and then it leads up to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
A man in love with his code machine.
You know, like with every fucking Michael Bay film, there is a story in this movie that is so far hidden that I wish that was the movie. I wish there was a way to salvage this fucking giant heaping mass of glacial paste film into something that was good.
I know that I often say that I don't think it's very good criticism to wish for a different film in the film. However, I kind of give an exception to in situations like this when it's kind of like, yeah, but I see a different film in the film.
While we're watching it.
And I wish I knew that story.
Also because you expect it of like the stellar cast of like 120 people, all of them like fucking big names, excellent potential, and then they just, my God, the most wet blanket milk toast fucking performance.
Yeah, and the thing is that I actually think that if a movie like this was made today, they would focus more on like the fact that like the idea of like what it's like to be a nurse during a horrific attack, what it's like to be a fighter pilot, what it's like to be a code breaker,
what it's like to be that stuttering guy who's in love with a nurse. Like he should have been the lead.
But
he had more emotive power than all 3 lead cast members combined.
But instead, this like love triangle of it all just takes up all of this space, and it's kind of like, well, the love triangle is kind of interchangeable with every other love triangle in the world.
Totally.
And also, this sounds like it sounds silly, but it's like there's nothing thematic to Pearl Harbor that accentuates the issues that they're facing as a love triangle, because it's kind of like, well, this could have happened in any war film. You know, it's like I don't.
It's not about Pearl Harbor at all.
It could be about any fucking thing. Yeah,
it could be about fucking COVID. They could have just been
exactly.
traveling,
Yeah,
and then he'd be like, "Listen, when I come back from after the COVID is over, we banging."
When I come back from the hospital,
Stupid.
We're banging mask to mask.
There's a lot of ratings for this film, not very generous ones, and so I had to dig really deep to find some of the good ones. And the best rating this movie has is still a proper fucking roast. Someone who says, "This violent movie is worth seeing, but only once."
That's true.
Fucking nailed it. Like, and so I my God, my hat's off to you, sir.
Actually,
watched it
I
twice.
challenge you. I've seen this movie many times.
Yeah, madman. I knew it.
So, back to the plot. Enough of what little plot we have.
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor is attacked. Okay. Now, I want to spend some time on this. And the first thing I want to spend time on is the depiction of Japanese people in this film.
Yes.
It sometimes kind of feels like it's like, hey, how do Japanese people act? Oh, like samurai. Just all of them act like samurai, and that's it. They just all are samurai people, and they don't have any other character. And they're kind of
serious.
mean, honorable, and very good at what they do, which is bombing the fuck out of our battleships.
Woo-hoo.
And it's like, so that is one of the many complaints you can level at this film. But honestly, like, aren't there worse cinematic crimes that have been perpetrated during the making of this movie than the terrible depiction of the Japanese?
I mean, it is a historical drama with very little historical parts in it. But I was so nervous about how they were going to portray those Japanese admirals. And like every single scene when like one of the generals would come on, I'd be like, please don't let this be some just reductionist fucking caricature of a Japanese man. And surprisingly, it wasn't.
It's not great, but it's okay.
It was okay,
it's
which
also,
is already high praise.
It's also, I have to, like, it's necessary to the film to kind of like humanize the people who are bombing Pearl Harbor, right?
Yeah.
And it would be worse if they just didn't and just left them out completely. And the gentleman who plays the Japanese admiral, I think, is quite admiral is quite good.
Oh hell!
And
yeah.
he has some really interesting lines, like the one where he says a better leader would find a way to not fight a war.
Totally.
But in the end, it gets a weird. His interactions get a weirdly like America centric, where he's kind of like, oh, I fear we've awoken a sleeping giant, and it's kind of like he's like, sorry, America,
Whoops.
we had to.
Yeah,
I was just following orders, and that the weird depiction of the underdog of America in this movie is kind of annoying because it's
100%.
like.
It's very
America entered the war and just kicked the shit out of like lots of people. It's not that they didn't do it without conflict. They obviously had many heavy losses, but they came into the war and fought on two fronts and like produced all of this equipment and essentially greatly helped win the war which might not have been winnable otherwise.
Yeah.
Yet the movie still kind of is like, it's like, oh, poor little America rising up from below. And I was reading about Pearl Harbor, the little research I did, where all of these ships that got bombed, like 8 of the like battle cruisers that got bombed, 6 of them were fixed and went back to war.
Oh god.
So it's kind of like, it's not.
I'm telling you,
it's a little less devastating than they picked. Obviously, it was a huge major loss of life and devastation, but like. America still, it's not like it took them a long time to get back in the fight.
No, the way they grossly bloated the brutality of the Japanese military people who were like, oh, you know what? We're going to bomb the shit out of this fucking hospital at Pearl Harbor because they had to give the nurses a couple things to do. Although historically, like, and I'm not trying to be like someone who's supporting and calling the Japanese people very noble for having done that. Like, I'm sure their agenda during the war would have been to like just fucking attack the Navy ships, right? I don't think they would have wanted to single out a fucking hospital. But the amount of attention that hospital brutality got felt a little bit like pandering to the American sensibilities. America would never attack civilians. America would never kill a fucking hospital. Like, fuck out of here.
A little. So for one, when the Japanese planes are flying past the kids playing baseball, like the Japanese guy is waving at them, and I believe he's being like, "Don't like go away. Like you have to leave," which is good, which is what you should do in war. However, I did read, and I'm not sure. Again, like I'm not a fucking historian, but like I read that this, because they had not formally declared war, this was actually deemed a war crime,
right?
The Pearl Harbor attack,
a sneak attack, which
makes perfect sense, but. Depicting America like they're fucking Rocky Balboa a little bit in this. I find it like kind of disingenuous and it's kind of what I want to get at. We can talk about it now, actually.
Yeah.
Kate Beckinsale's monologue at the end. Now, I found really interesting because she gives this very, very like America rose from the ashes and committed an even worse war crime against Japan. 2 days later. Yeah. The post-credit sequence is America committing a horrific war crime.
The war crime really was Michael Bay making this film.
Yeah.
And us having to watch it.
Yeah. The nuclear bomb at the box office.
A bomb it was.
But and I was like, this little speech that Kate Beckinsale gives reeks of post-September 11th America shit. And I was wrong. It is not. It was released in May. It was released on the, not the anniversary because it was December. It was released in like the early summer season of 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
oh, this is pre-11.
Man, if this had come out in like Christmas time, would this have been a bigger hit?
The fact that this already is huge. Ugh. I feel like it would have disappeared. I feel like it wouldn't have got as much credit as it did in the 6 months leading up to it.
But in a post 9/11 world, this movie is, I mean, it would be frightening and traumatizing for many people, but it's also like maybe the perfect type of story to get Americans on board with, going off to fight in foreign wars.
Shit. I mean, you know what? If Spielberg had done this,
oh, it would have been amazing.
then that would have been worthy of like this is going to be the definitive war film that solidifies America as the ultimate heroes and justifies all their war crimes and actions. The fact that this movie, I want to come back to that point about how they try to very, in a not so blatant way, try to vilify Japan and also like literally flip the coin and glorify America as this moral compass. It is so obvious towards the third half of the film that it's just like, all right, so I watched a romance and then now I'm watching some fucking war apology shit. Like
when I was younger and I didn't know as much about World War II and stuff, but like the Doolittle raid stuff, I was just kind of like, was that real? That seems so tacked on and stupid.
Yeah.
And it was, but
it
still feels tacked on and stupid. Like it's just such a dumb fucking sequence. It's so frustrating to watch. Yeah. And again, speaking of like seeing this thing in the theaters for the first time, imagine being like, oh, all of that's done. Holy fuck, I have another like
hour to
Jesus Christ. And also like that sequence is so boring. And why couldn't Danny just die at Pearl Harbor? Like, dude, fucking Christ.
I am so thankful I wasn't at the cinemas because even watching at home, I was so fatigued at just like the thought of knowing that so much more of this movie is left to still watch.
Yeah.
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 That is why I said that I would rather be incensed. Like I'd rather have a movie be bad and make me angry than be bad and make me bored.
Oh, yeah.
Because then I feel like my time is just fucking gone.
Yeah. Can't get it back, really. Yeah. So, the samurai people with no character attack Pearl Harbor. And I will say, so in the battle sequence, I kind of think of it in like 3 or 4 different parts. And the setup with the Japanese taking off from the aircraft carriers and flying to Pearl Harbor is actually really good filmmaking.
Absolutely.
And a large part of it has to do with the fact that Hans Zimmer is really overqualified to make this the score for this. The score is outstanding.
Fantastic.
And it's also just like beautiful filmmaking. Like it's tense and scary and like
exactly
really well done. And then the attack itself is just, it's the exact kind of like chaos and insanity I want. And I will say, like, I think the special effects in this movie are pretty fucking great for 2001.
Totally.
There's this sequence where the bomb gets dropped into the Arizona and then the whole ship like bends just before it explodes. Is like really, it's one of those weird cathartic action scenes that you're just kind of like, that's the shit that I want.
And you feel it.
Yeah.
You feel the tension, the pulsating.
It's the epitome of the cool explosion that you want to see.
100%.
It's really good at that.
Like a fan edit of this movie that's just maybe a couple of minutes and then 40 minutes of Michael Bay explosions leading up to the way. Like that is the Michael Bay movie that people expected to come and watch, but then they were trapped in the cinema hall for 3.5 hours.
And so like all of that stuff in the harbor with no character whatsoever, just random people of extra is all really good. And then once Danny and Rafe get to the airfield, it's just like annoying. And the reason it's annoying, and this I think is what I was going to say that you kind of touched on earlier, is like it's really hard to make a film where the outcome of the event of the film has nothing to do with the characters.
Oh my God.
They have no, like, it's not like they could do anything about this, but yet we have to get them up in these planes to shoot down some people. And it's just like so fucking like, oh God, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, like
really good point.
It seems so unnecessary.
It's because the characters are so dull that you want something more out of the event itself, like you're talking about, but that never happens.
Yeah.
for
Like,
a
the-
long part of
the thing
movie.
is, like, they just feel like the wrong characters
Oh, what a
for
loss.
the fucking movie.
100%
I don't know. It's so, yeah. Like,
underwhelming.
and then, I mean, Josh Hartnett says, I think World War II just started. And I'm just like, yeah, brother.
Yeah. And then he dies.
Get out there. Get out there with Tom Sizemore.
Tom Sizemore.
R.I.P. Another Sizemore in our midst. Yeah.
Another character who should have had way more screen time than he does got.
Good in this film.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the many things that Michael Bay stole from Saving Private Ryan, clearly.
Oh yeah.
That was inspired, was like, I'm just gonna get Sizemore. This movie is a little bit like Titanic smashed with Saving Private Ryan, and
This
made a
movie's like
baby.
Titanic if Titanic sucked balls.
Yeah, instead
Sorry.
of being one of the greatest films of all time.
Goddamn right. You know, for
It's Private Ryan
minus
too.
of the action, I think that's what he was going for. Possibly.
100. No, lots of people have brought that up. That it is kind of like a very heavily. I honestly do. I seriously do think that Titanic and Saving Private Ryan were the touchstone pictures of this film that were like, that's what I want to get. And
Smushed together.
people make fun of Titanic, which is, you're stupid if you do, because if you don't like that movie, you're an idiot. But the romance in this film is obviously just falls short of
My God.
how good it is in Titanic. But then again, James Cameron is Michael Bay is masterful at some things, and James Cameron is masterful at almost all things. So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
the whole scene of like, so they get up in the plane and then they go, and Kate Beckinsale is being a nurse. That stuff is all really intense, and that's the only part that really reckons with like how horrible war is. And I actually also want to draw, kind of like point out that there's a scene which I really truly think is like good, interesting filmmaking, is when they're in the harbor and the men are trapped in the boat and they're banging on the side of the boat.
Yeah.
And their hands are coming up through that broken bit. That is truly disturbing and scary and upsetting filmmaking. That's exactly what a war film should be like. And again, that's like what this movie just doesn't quite do.
No. Every 5 minutes, I was just hoping that they would turn this movie off and turn on 1917 instead. Like, just any film. But I will watch Jarhead 3, okay, over most of the cinema. But
Yeah.
you're right. The good parts, the good Michael Bay-esque parts, deliver 10 on 10.
Like I am not a Baysien fan, really. I don't really I don't think of Michael Bay movies as like stuff I really like. Like, this might be his, weird to say, like his best work.
Yeah, you're not a big fan of Transformers?
No, not really. Transformers 1 might be better than this.
I agree.
Maybe.
Definitely better in pace for sure.
I don't know.
God, it was such a long time
I tend
ago.
to like, and it's okay. Like, it's not really aimed at my audience. I kind of tend to not like any Michael Bay movies, but this one is the only one I think I've rewatched multiple times.
Why?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you.
Damn.
Yeah.
Something about it.
Yeah.
Something about it that made it get an Academy Award nomination.
Sound. The sound that was it.
It's a sound Zimmer.
And so basically from there, like, we have the setup for like the Doolittle raid, and there's like a training montage that's just terrible and boring. Alec Baldwin is just like awful. And then the Doolittle raid is just like uninteresting. They just like fly over Japan, they bomb it, and then they crash land in China.
Yeah.
And then and then Danny gets shot, and you're all just like, all of that was just for Danny to get shot.
Yeah, of course.
Like, that's all that was.
Like, I'm
meant
sure
to
the
do
audience saw it coming
story-wise.
2 hours ago. Like, at no point is anyone shocked that, like,
As soon as Kate Beckinsale says that she's gonna stay with Danny, you're just like, he's dead.
he's dead.
All right, moving on. Yep. And then Rafe returns to Evelyn, and they raise young Danny together.
They make it seem like Danny does this like sacrifice, or like he somewhat takes the bullet, but really he's just caught in crossfire.
He's just,
That was such a confusing.
he's just
couple
an
minutes
unfortunate victim of war.
there. Yeah,
And I just don't know why that couldn't have happened in Pearl Harbor.
exactly.
You know?
Why did they have to do
The whole
thing?
sequence. Oh.
It's like, hold on, we got 60 more minutes left of this film, so.
And then, and so over that's where Kate Beckinsale gives that terrible fucking monologue. And it's just so like that part just makes me just, that monologue really like, I just find it kind of like it boils World War II down to something so simple, and it's really not a simple thing.
Yeah.
And it just is kind of like, yeah, we got punched and we got back up again. And it's kind of like, there's so much. And it's like, America tends to do this with war films, where it's just kind of like, man, America had it tough, but good thing we saved the world. And it's like, lots of other people died in World War II. Like it was a really complicated conflict. Lots of people sacrificed.
Don't make it about yourself, America.
Well, but they do, and it's like so many people sacrificed so many more people than America did.
Yeah,
in horrible and disgusting and disturbing ways. Yeah. And yet America is just like, oh man, good thing we got John there. Voight. And to be fair to America, it is a good thing they were there, because they really helped win the war. But it's all kind of like, I don't know, it's so like America centric in a way that I find so
right, but of course,
silly. Yeah,
like
there's another part when Rafe is in Britain and that one guy is like, oi mate, oi.
The one Brit.
He's like, oh, if there's more Yanks like you, the Germany's don't stand a chance. And it's kind of like, I just don't think a British guy would say that so sincerely.
Fuck no.
Brits aren't sincere about anything.
They don't give a fuck about you.
They don't even like have salt. They're just bitter people.
My Jimmy.
Like I just don't think a British person would ever say that without making a joke and being like, where'd you get your fucking chin, mate? That's a little British accent.
Where'd you lose it? More like,
hey, where'd you get your chin, mate?
You got 4 of them. God, I wanted this movie to end just minutes after it began. So already tired. I'm sorry. Fuck.
It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
But you know what? Here's my end note on the plot there. If you just stop caring about the things that generally make movies good, you can enjoy this film.
If you hate time, you will enjoy this film.
If you have no respect for yourself, your family, or your time, this movie is for you. Honestly.
If you don't want to have sex with Kate Beckinsale, watch this film. Hard relate. If you are like Rafe, you're the audience for this film. If you don't want to F Kate Beckinsale when you might die, watch this movie. You know, like the fucking Butterfly Effect movie, the Evan Treborn's name was like, Event Reborn or whatever.
Yes.
It was like RAF planes. Is that why his name was Rafe?
I don't know, but Rafe is a very piloty name, certainly.
Oh yeah. You mentioned that. It's kind of common. But yeah.
Oh, I mean, I just mentioned that Rafe Spall is also an actor that exists.
So the two Rafes.
Rafe. But you don't see many Rafes. You don't see many Rafes these days, I don't think. Yeah.
Is it Rafe Fiennes?
Well, yeah, it's spelled
like
Ralph. Yeah.
God.
That guy should really learn how to say his name, because it's annoying that it's spelled that way.
We'll just call him Voldy and call it a day.
All right. I'm ready for the top 5.
You ready for the top 5?
Yeah. I think I've alienated the audience enough with my own top 5, so it's your turn now.
Okay. Kate Beckinsale. What do we know her from the most? And we love her in the most.
Underworld.
As
I've never seen Underworld.
Well, you're about to watch it 5 times with me in the coming week. So, Kate Beckinsale as Celine the vampire in Underworld.
I thought she was a werewolf.
No, her love interest is a werewolf. That's why it's a spicy movie.
The original Twilight.
But you know what? I'll do you one better. Here's top 5 vampires who could replace Kate Beckinsale as the love interest to Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett in this film.
If you don't have Gary Oldman on this list,
Number 5,
World War III is going to start.
Straight away. I'm like throwing my phone at you. Like, look at it. Gary Oldman. Right away at number 5. A tender, sweet, gentle love triangle.
If I miss you like the sunset. I don't even know how I forget how he sounds, but that movie is sick.
I want.
Please stay in my Pearl Harbor. Benissimo.
just a tender, gentle touch with
Rafe,
Gary.
I want you to bomb my Pearl Harbor.
Please don't make this crass. This is a tender moment between Josh Hartnett. That guy's name is so hard to say. I hate his stupid Josh
Hartnett.
What's his face? Ben Affleck.
Why can't it just be Harnett?
I
You know,
know.
like get it right, dude.
Anyway, he Gary Oldman would ignore him and be like, Ben, you and me, boo.
Yeah.
And that would be it. Number 4, Wesley Snipes. Wesley would have been like, let's open up this relationship and not be bound by society's limitations of how 3 men should love each other. Like Wesley would be just infinitely cooler than both of these idiots.
But
I don't know. I have dreams and hopes for the three of them.
Would Wesley Snipes respect Michael Bay enough to actually do a good job on set?
No, that's why he'd be good.
Well, I don't think he was very good in Blade 3 or Trinity or whatever when
we
he
don't
wouldn't speak to the director.
We don't talk about Blade 3 on this podcast.
I've never seen any Blade film.
Ooh, number 1. Number 1, still a banger. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's watch Blade 1 after this.
No.
To honor the memory of Kate Beckinsale in Pearl Harbor.
I will only watch the Mahershala Ali Blade.
Ooh.
Just
When
kidding. I'm not going
Is
to watch
that
that.
ever gonna...
I don't know.
But-
Didn't they tease it in like the Eternals or something that
Whatever.
Mahersh was going to blade it up?
There's like 17 post-credit scenes. I've stopped paying attention. Number 3, with the sexiest name so far, Clace Bang. Everybody, stop what you're doing. Go watch this 3-episode mini Dracula show on Netflix with Clace Bang.
Claes
Bang.
Bang.
Clace Bang goes hard as a timeless Drac. He's so fucking good. He is
Yeah,
so
he's
good.
he's good in that. Yeah,
He's a fantastic actor.
I like Claes Bang.
And he's so
yeah.
compelling as Dracula. And, I mean, he could eat Kate Beckinsale's lunch. He could be such a good romantic interest for Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett.
I gotta say though, Kate Beckinsale is still the hottest so far.
What? Did you not hear me say Gary Oldman straight away? Get the fuck out of here. Number 2. And this one's my favorite so far. Colin Farrell. Have you seen Fright Night?
No, I've never seen Fright Night.
My guy. What a super chill Drac. I mean, he could easily usurp Kate Beckinsale in Underworld. Colin Farrell in Underworld as Kate Beckinsale? Mwah. 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 Are you kidding me?
I thought Pearl Harbor was really bad. As an Irishman, I think Pearl Harbor is a bad thing.
I mean, it's perfect. He would immediately hate the sun. Of course he belongs indoors. Like
This does strike me as a movie where there would be like one random Irishman there, and it's just kind of never explained why
No.
he has an Irish accent. Which, like, even Spud he's Scottish, right?
Yeah, there you go.
They could have just made him Scottish and could have just been like,
No.
oh, he likes America.
Yeah, he just came over here and then he did this thing over here.
Yeah, too bad he got caught up.
Straight murdered.
No, he didn't die.
No.
His lady did.
Just
Jamie King.
Yeah, Betty did. And speaking of Colin Farrell, Ben Affleck would never leave for war without having sex with Colin Farrell. Guarantee it.
I mean, just like the homoerotic threesome between those 3 guys would be incredible.
It would be beautiful.
Yeah.
It would be beautiful to behold, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. Beautiful guys.
Number 1. And this was hard. This was hard for me to really zone it because there's a lot of great contenders. But number 1 vampire who could replace Kate Beckinsale.
It's not Pattinson, is it?
No, God, no.
Can't believe he didn't. Is he an honorable mention at least? Like,
No,
Jesus.
no Twilight cast members because they would be super anti-war. They're good kids, so they would not sign up for any of this shit. Number 1 is Tom Cruise. Interview with the Vampire. My God, can you imagine fucking the holy pairing of Maverick, the Dracula, with Ben Affleck and Josh, what's his face?
Top Maverick.
Just no brainer.
Top Dracula.
Sorry to have crushed you this hard, Kate Beckinsale. Just I know you opened it with being like the homoerotic undertones. Stop it. 5 male vampires who will usurp.
I think it's kind of unfair to be like, oh, I crushed Kate Beckinsale. Like 4 of those guys have been nominated for Academy Awards. Like they're pretty like legendary actors.
Not for being Dracula though. It's in other things, which is a shame because.
Do you think the Oscars, if they adopted like a Best Dracula award, because I mean Nick Cage is
Bela
about to do
Lugosi.
it, right?
Yeah.
No, like every year a Dracula thing might as well come out for like Cage is about to be in Renfield,
Oh, that would be fantastic.
so he'll kind of be a shoe-in for that. Yeah.
I'm actually pumped for that one. I'm very excited to go see it.
Okay.
That front row. Number 1 Renfield.
You know how much I love Nicholas Holt. Guy fucking rules.
There you go.
He's a great actor.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's like The Menu, but with Dracula. Sweet. Those are my very important analysis and theses
Oh man,
on the Pearl Harbor.
we bombed this movie.
Again.
We should bomb it out of existence.
Thank you.
Pearl Harbor.
Thanks for
I
listening.
mean, yeah. Thanks for listening. I'm sorry that we only do movies that you hate.
It's because we hate ourselves.
I mean,
and
like
that's why.
if someone was like upset that we did Butterfly Effect last week and then we do Pearl Harbor, like,
Yeah.
who is this for? Who are we doing this for?
I would want to go back in time and erase this version of me as well, to be fair. Like, this time period for pre. No bueno. Kill it. Kill it.
Pre-Treborn.
Aw.
Pearl Harbor. It's a great movie. I love it. It's not a guilty pleasure. I think it's awesome. It's well worth watching.
I fully disagree with every single
I'm about to start World War III on you.
Beautiful.
Thank you for listening. It's been The Low Ceiling.
Bye.
Bye.